throw, fire, and down! Incomplete, down at the goal line by San Diego! Tomlinson, off the left side, Tomlinson sidestep. Hello, history books. Think they have to now. Here's Sproles. Sproles inside the 10, inside the 5, and the Chargers win the game. Charger fans are witnesses to history.
Welcome, everybody, to the bye-week edition of the, what is this, Roundtable, TLR Roundtable. I always get it confused.
So many
Jamie's
shows.
here. Craig's here. It's almost too many shows. And we're back. Thanks for joining us on a Friday night. We'll answer all your questions. So if you got a bunch in the chat, go ahead and put those in now. We got Twitter questions. We got Discord questions. We'll hit up our bad tweets from the week. So I think if you guys are ready, let's just get right into it. We normally we'll do Discord first. So let's hit those up. All right, Craig. And here we go.
Yep. First one up is JJAF19. Wonder what the JJ stands for. Anyway, so the defense is carrying the team right now. Is that because of scheme talent, or is defense easier to implement than offense? Thanks. Throw this one to you, Garrett.
I mean, it feels like normally that defense is clicking quicker than offenses do, even like in training camp and all that, and then the first like month. But it feels like the defense is excelling because of Minter's scheme. When a defense has interchangeable pieces and they still succeed, that is more system than it is talent in my mind. And I mean, we all agreed going into this season that the defense is kind of playing better than we thought heading into training camp. They seem to be playing better than they are on paper, but like what they did last week, when you go against the Chiefs, the defending champions, and you are sans arguably your best defensive player, Derwin James, and you still get 2 turnovers and you still only hold the Chiefs to 17 points, that to me is scheme more than anything else. So, and to be honest with you, if you put another coach in this situation, another defense of the last decade for this Chargers team with a different coach, and they don't have Derwin James, they're most likely going to fold. So that to me tells me it's scheme over everything else.
Fair points. What is your input on this one, Jamie?
So I think scheme has a lot to do with it. I think there is also more established talent that they can fall back on defense, especially up front, that gives them more of a margin for error. And I also think we haven't really seen the offense the Chargers want to run because Herbert's been dealing with his ankle injury for the last couple of weeks. He's been banged up. I think they're protecting him. They're trying to take it easy. And the interior of the offensive line was a mess before they started shuffling guys around. So we can't really expect them to drop him back 5 to 7 steps constantly and try to get the ball down the field. They have to try to run the ball. They've got to get the ball out of his hands quickly. And I just think it's making them kind of predictable right now because they don't have the established skill players to make those plays on the outside right now. The offensive line is a disaster. And Herbert's injured. So there's literally nothing to fall back on offensively right now. If they shut down J.K. Dobbins, it's going to be a long day on offense, they being the opponent. So the defense, even without Derwin, you still got Mack, you've still got Thule. You know, the interior of the defensive line is playing a little bit better. The linebackers are playing at a high level. You've got 2 corners that are playing pretty well. It just seems like that the scheme is simple. They're letting guys attack. They're playing really well. And the offense has a whole host of injuries, schematic-wise, tempo-wise, playmaker-wise, injury-wise, that's just holding it down and keeping it from being able to show what it's capable of.
Yeah, for sure. So just to not repeat a bunch of things because we're all seeing what's going on with the offense. I mean, as far as the injuries are concerned, it's definitely slowing things down. So you can't see what the offensive full plan looks like. So it's a bit hampered, to say the least. But just in general, like it's a collection of all of the above. when we're talking specifically the Mentor's scheme, I think it's the simplicity of it. Like he'll run multiple coverage and blitz looks out of like the same sets, but he'll also throw in like a few wrinkles here and there to make the offense believe the same coverage or pressure is coming, just kind of based on the personnel of the front. So, what that'll allow for the defensive players to do is like it'll open up like one-on-one opportunities for your stars like a Mac, a Bosa when he's on the field, of course, Derwin, and etc. But the defense kind of tends to get its sea legs faster than the offense in general, because there's less moving parts. Like on offense, quarterbacks and linemen have to work together to set protections. Wide receivers have to have like the appropriate splits for spacing, which is a huge problem for the Chargers on offense right now. And running backs have to like hit landmarks and everything like that before they can even take handoffs. So it's just a lot of moving parts. You couple that with all of like the requisite injuries that are accompanying things, and it pretty much is a recipe for one side of the ball to succeed over the other. But in general, defenses typically, if you're starting off with two new schemes on a team, defenses have the advantage to get the ball rolling just to start off.
All right, here comes number 2, Craig.
This one's from Isaac. So with Neiman's activation window opening and assuming Chark's opens soon too, what changes do you see them making to the 53 to squeeze the man? What would you do? Second question here. We've seen the big names, Andrews, Adams, Cooper, etc., as trade targets, but what are some younger, cheaper role players you'd like to see them add? So let's kick off the first half of that question there, Jamie. What do you think?
I think when Chark comes back, it probably should be Brendan Rice, who heads back to the practice squad. I think it probably will wind up being Semi Fehoko, just a guess. But Chark, yeah, I think that's the easy thing. It's going to be one of those 2 wide receivers, right? It should be Brendan Rice, but maybe they value the draft pick over a guy like Fehoko, who they might think they could sneak onto a practice squad somewhere at this point in the season. In terms of what you would do with Neiman coming back, if he comes back, let's see here.
Are you looking up names?
Yeah.
I know there's one that you would love to see inactive.
Let me see.
I think we would all play the same position as Justin Herbert.
Oh, yeah. Well, stick is an easy one. I was going to look at linebackers too.
Well, they had Shaq
Quarterman.
They had Shaq Quarterman for the first 3 games, and then they brought in Blake Lynch for the Kansas City game. So that seems like an easy.
Yeah, that's a really easy one. So Lynch is probably the easy one. If they feel like Heineke's ready, stick would be another option for me.
Yeah, I'm with. It feels like Blake Lynch 1-for-1 with Neiman is easy. Semi Fehoko, I feel like, was so good on special teams last week that it just feels like he's starting to come into his own as a gunner, that I wouldn't take him and put him on the practice squad. I think Rice would be the better candidate. I would also throw in Sam Mustipher and Eric Tomlinson in that group of guys that would never want to see in a Charger jersey again. But stick could be a nice third too.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page here. I kind of toggle back and forth between both Rice and Fehoko. Just like Garrett mentioned there, Fehoko is a difference maker on special teams. He's growing in that role there. We don't know exactly what Rice is. He has the temperament to be able to play it, so I don't doubt that he could do it successfully. And then 9 times out of 10, we're not going to see him on the field as a receiver anyway. But if you did have to kind of, take a few snaps here and there, I trust his ability to be able to come in and not basically crap his pants. So essentially for me, just Mustipher, who I thought they might actually roll out as a center, because that's the position I think he had been playing. I'm not sure how much guard he played before just recently, but easily Mustipher, potentially a Shaq Quarterman. But I mean, for me, get Easton Stick off of the active roster. I mean, by now, You would imagine that the Chargers have a backup that they feel confident in. He's been there a little over a month now, so the system should be picked up at least to the degree where you feel like you can run most of the playbook at this point. So really easy names for me there for the other guys, but it's a toss-up right now between Fehoko and Rice for me.
For the Chark move?
Yeah, for the Chark move.
Yeah. What about trade targets? You guys have any names on that second part of the question?
I think if the Raiders are going to sell off Devontae Adams, I might try giving them a call about Jacoby Myers to see if he's available and see what we can do at wide receiver there. Another name that sticks out to me, and I'm blanking on his first name, but the Mim kid from Oklahoma, Mims, who's playing in Denver right now, the wide receiver. I don't think he's playing a whole lot. I don't
not
think he's
Denzel.
No.
Oh man.
You guys know who I'm
I'll
talking
get it.
about.
I know exactly what you're talking about, though.
Marvin Mims Jr.
Marvin Mims Jr. Yes.
Jeez,
he'd be another guy that I would call on. I don't think he's playing a whole lot. I don't think they're using him on kick returns or punt returns a whole lot. So that'd be somebody I would call on just to see if we could add some speed and explosiveness to the wide receiver room. And then at this point, pretty much any tight end will do. If he's got a pulse and he can run and catch, then he's worth a look.
So a couple names. We're talking about younger and kind of cheaper. So the easy name would be like Darius Slayton from the Giants. This is a name that's come up in the past as a potential trade target, and the Chargers definitely need more speed, someone who can stretch the field vertically. Chark coming back is absolutely going to help. So still, you can never have enough speed. And Slayton's a guy who's not been a high-level performer in New York, but he has proven to be able to be a game breaker. And if you can get someone like him to come into the mix alongside of DJ Chark and just give the Chargers some options down the field to not just threaten for big plays, but also to open up things underneath for your more intermediate receivers. Guys like McConkey would benefit greatly playing alongside receivers like that. So easy for me there. Another name, ironically enough here, Jamie, is one of our favorites in the past, Treylon Burks. He's on his last year with Tennessee, and he hasn't been very impressive. I mean, I guess you could throw out the B word there. He's coming towards the end of his rookie contract. I think he only has 1 year left. But all things considered, it's not like he's played in the best situation for wide receivers out there. And the Chargers are still lacking one of those bigger body wide receivers. So I'm not saying that he would come in and his game would just exponentially grow, but I think in the system he'd have an opportunity to develop. You can use him pretty much everywhere. You can threaten the deep portion of the field because he has that bigger body. He can go up for contested balls. He does have decent speed. And dude's 6'2", 220 pounds. So he's just a complete massive animal of a man who is hard to bring down in the open field. He had a couple of nice games last year, but he dealt with some injuries. There was a concussion that he had. I think it came the game after he went for like over 100 or so yards. And it just feels like everything's been really, really up and down with his stint at Tennessee, and a change of scenery could potentially help him. And then if we're talking tight ends, Dawson Knox seems like someone who might be available, even though he signed like a 4-year contract with the Bills in 2022. So I'm not exactly sure what that would look like for them in order to trade him. Might not make a whole lot of sense on their end, but he's absolutely been overshadowed by Dalton Kincaid. So he kind of seems like an afterthought in Buffalo. There's another guy who can stretch the field vertically, is a decent blocker, and he's much better than anything the Chargers can offer right now at the tight end position. So those would kind of be my 3 names as far as like younger guys who might not necessarily break the bank to get.
I'm currently working on a podcast for the bye week on trade targets, and so did some digging, but I'll just give one because I'll have the podcast out next week. The one for me that I feel like is the most realistic and makes the most sense is a guy I would go after, and I think the ties are right, everything makes sense, and it all aligns, and that's the Ravens guard Ben Cleveland. The Ravens drafted Rosengarten because Falele could not play tackle, so they drafted Rosengarten. He's playing right tackle. Falele had to move into right guard, which kicked Ben Cleveland out, and he's no longer part of the starting 5. They needed to make room for their high pick linemen, and since Cleveland's been the odd man out, the cost is low. But the best thing about this is all offseason, they cross-trained Ben Cleveland to be a center. And they wanted him to compete to be a center for 2024 and ended up becoming a backup center now on their depth chart. So even though it's not flashy, Ben Cleveland feels like a nice little addition that could at least help out in the interior of the offensive line where they need some major help right now. And it's realistic.
How old is Ben Cleveland?
I think he's in his last year of his rookie contract.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
Another guy who might make some sense. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you're good.
Somebody else who might make some sense is Austin Hooper as a tight end. He's not young, but I don't think he's making a ton of money. Let me see here. Yeah, he's only making $1.2 million this year. And he's a much better receiving tight end than anybody that's in the room right now. And he's pretty good with the ball in his hands too. So that could be another option. Offensive line is a major issue. Tight end is a major issue. Obviously, they're not getting a lot out of the wide receiver room. So those are three areas that I think you could take a close look at.
Yep. All right. Our third Discord question here. Craig?
Yep. Peyton Toledo. How big of a difference will DJ Chark make when he returns? So I'll go ahead and kick this one off. So as far as Chark is concerned, I kind of mentioned him here in the last question that we answered, but the length and legitimate speed to crack like the top of any defense open has shown, and he's also shown himself to kind of be like a competent contested catch guy. So it's not just the ability to get down the field and open up things that way. You can put the ball up and he'll go up and get it. He might actually be the best on the team to do that right now. We don't really have that level of physicality at receiver, and not to call Chark an overly physical receiver, but he has proven to have the ability to do it. This would really do wonders for the spacing issues, and it'll make McConkey especially more dangerous threat because of like Chark's ability to carry a safety. So that'll open up the middle of the field. So the opportunities will be more available. So you got like your shallow crossers, your deep overs, whip routes, slants, like even bench routes that allow him to use his quickness and acceleration to get outside from the slot. So I think he unlocks a lot of things that the offense hasn't been able to do because they've lacked that overall element of speed. And once he comes back, I think you'll see things open up a bit more. Like they may even just try to test defenses over the top just so they respect it, which also opens up the box a little bit for the running game. So I can imagine a scenario where as much as this wants to be a run first team, they'll come out some drives early on and just test the deep portion of the defense to open things up for the running game. So you may see drives start off with passes, and then second down, you might get a run if the box lightens up. So they just have to make teams respect them vertically.
Yeah, I think, Chark is a guy. One thing they're really missing right now is they don't have that contested catch option. They don't have somebody who I think Herbert really trusts to go up and get the ball in a tight window. We've seen him kind of use McConkey in that role, but he's usually throwing the ball low and away. We're not seeing him throw those 50-50 balls up for guys to go get it because I don't think he trusts anybody. So Chark is a physical guy. He can go up and get the ball. Obviously, I think he would provide some explosiveness down the field. I think he's a guy you could see running more like intermediate and deep overs in breaking routes, trying to test that void between the linebackers and the safeties. How much will they use him? That remains to be seen. I mean, he'll come back. He'll be probably the fourth wide receiver on the depth chart and have to work his way back up and earn those reps. But they need somebody to test the deep part of the field. They need somebody Herbert trusts to throw the ball in tight windows. And I think Chark could be that guy.
Yeah. It's an element that the Chargers are currently lacking that they currently have on the roster. It would be nice to add Devontae Adams or Amari Cooper, whatever other trade target you're thinking of, but they currently have somebody on the roster who hasn't played yet that could be a true downfield threat, which is something that they need, something that would absolutely help Ladd McConkey in the middle of the field. And it's kind of an explosive element that the Chargers are missing too. So no other receiver is currently keeping the deep half accountable. And I know QJ has caught some deep passes, but the separation just isn't there. And like Jamie said, there's no real 50-50 balls going there. But Chark could be that guy if the Chargers O-line could block long enough for Herbert to sling it downfield. But yes, there seems to be a new element that DJ Chark could unlock in this offense if they do use him downfield. And, I don't know that we'll even see that right away. I think that's what Jamie's kind of alluding to is, he's been out 4 weeks. They've already established their top 3. Is he even going to be ready to go? Is it going to be a slow ramp up? What are they thinking? But eventually, in a perfect world, we all thought that he'd be the kind of deep threat that we hope the Chargers offense could spark off of. So yes, I think he will make a difference, but I think that big difference will probably come, it feels like a couple weeks after he finally does hit the field, if not, a month or so after.
Yeah, he's still going to have to work his way into game shape. So I'm talking about a guy who hasn't stepped foot on the field for a regular season snap. So I wouldn't expect miraculous things next week. But yeah, it'll probably be a gradual thing. But he'll be welcome because his skill set is sorely lacking from the rest of the team right now.
Yep. All right. Jamie, yours is coming up. Hold on. I just missed it. Hold on. Where are we at? Here we go. Oh, okay. Anyway, it's out of order, but go ahead.
Are we done with the Discord questions already?
Yep, we are.
Okay. So this question is from Richie Farley, and he asks, do you consider Ladd McConkey to be wide receiver 1 of this team at this point? Behoko and Rice are like missing kids on the back of a milk carton. QJ has some small flashes here and there. Palmer is just mid, and Darius Davis has his own problems with kick return and punt return duty this season. So what do you think, Garrett? Is Ladd McConkey the wide receiver 1?
I do. I did a whole podcast on it.
What did you want them to do exactly, Garrett? I forget.
I only said it 100 times in the podcast.
Sorry.
Which I'm editing it and going, why do I keep saying that? Anyway, no, I truly believe that Ladd should be the volume hog of this offense. And the Chargers are really starting to ramp him up. He had a 39% first read target share over the last 2 weeks. He was at 19 the first 2 weeks, week 1 and week 2. So over the last 2 games, he's jumped almost double what he was when he started. And it felt like, he's a rookie. They're kind of starting to, ease him in a little bit. But in the last 2 weeks, they kind of let him loose a little bit. And when you look at the average separation score of McConkey versus those first read target shares, he's in the same range as guys like Nico Collins, Drake London after the first 4 weeks. And then his success rate in that is 82%. So meaning he's being targeted often. And when he's been targeted, he's getting separation, elite separation with some of the best wide receivers in the league. And on those targets, good things are happening. So it's all a trend that hopefully would lead Roman to funnel touches to Ladd McConkey. Not only touches, targets, and it feels like he should start becoming the focal point of this passing game, and in turn would be the wide receiver 1. It just feels like when you pass to McConkey, good things happen. Even when he catches something 2 to 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage, he's fighting 3 to 4 yards downfield on the first tackle and then falling forward for another yard or 2. So even when he's not getting target on those passes while watching these games, he's still getting separation. I mean, the kid just is an elite route runner, and the nuance that we're starting to pick up through these last couple of weeks are really starting to show, and it's really becoming a problem, especially when he was guarded by like guys like Drew Tranquil last week versus the Chiefs. So he's not only getting separation, he's a pretty capable blocker in the run game. It is time to feed Ladd McConkey, as Greg was alluding to. And I mean, at this point, just let the rest of the receiver core kind of sprinkle in at times. But it really does feel like he's on pace to be the wide receiver 1 for this team.
Greg, what do you think?
I think he's the de facto wide receiver 1. He's growing into that role. I think we all imagined that the lead guy would be Josh Palmer, but I mean, Richie called him mid, and that's basically what he's been here for the first few games. I mean, when he's played, he's still, I don't know what it is with certain guys on this team and the injury bug, but he can't seem to get himself together for a full game and contribute consistently. Ladd is not only available, but he's the only receiver of the group that can consistently get separation. I mean, Garrett spoke to this. The thing that I love about Ladd is he's able to get quick separation, which is great for Herbert because he's facing a lot of interior pressure. So that only helps. Getting him out on like some orbit motions, just putting him in motion so he can get clean releases. If you get Ladd McConkey out into his route cleanly, there's no one who's going to be able to defend him one-on-one. He'll find holes in the zone, sit down, catch the ball. Not only sit down and catch the ball, he's not going to give himself up. He's going to look to get upfield and create yards after the catch. And for a guy with like, diminutive in size, what Ladd's like 6 foot 180, 185-ish, somewhere around there.
It would be nice to call it 190.
Yeah. Okay. Give him a bump. He definitely runs like he's a bigger guy. There's no fear with him. He's not looking to avoid contact, meaning he's not running over guys, but he's not like going out of his way to avoid it. He's using his quickness and speed to get to the outside and beat angles. That touchdown catch, we can't speak about it enough. There's not enough glowing things you can say about it because it proves two things. Herbert trusts him because he threw that ball to a spot where only Ladd could get it, but he also threw it before Ladd broke to make the catch. It's almost like this weird ESP thing. He knew what Ladd was going to do. Ladd made the jab step in the opposite direction, and then when he attacked the ball, he created separation in that split second that Herbert just had to guess that he would do. Otherwise, that ball's going out of the back of the end zone and no one's touching it. So you see them growing that rapport, and I think here over the course of the next few weeks, regardless as to whether DJ Chark is back on the field or not, Ladd is going to grow into Herbert's favorite target, and it's starting to happen before our eyes already.
Yeah, I think it's already there. I don't think the Chargers have like a true wide receiver one on this roster, but McConkey is, like Craig said, he's the de facto wide receiver one. He's the guy that Herbert seems to trust. And I think had Herbert not re-aggravated his ankle injury and had the offensive line not fallen apart in Pittsburgh, we probably would have seen a monster game from him because they were starting to unlock him in that intermediate in-breaking route range. He was catching the ball in the middle of the field. He was catching the digs and the ins and all that kind of stuff. And he was getting himself open and making plays. And it seemed like the game plan going in was let's take the leash off of McConkey and give him an opportunity to make some plays. And he was doing that. So I think it's unfortunate that everybody got hurt in the Pittsburgh game because I really do think we would have seen a much bigger game from him and probably from QJ the way things were going. So, yeah, McConkey is the wide receiver one. You know he's going to create separation. You know he's going to catch the ball. It seems like he and Herbert are just always on the same page, and he's going to make somebody miss when he catches the ball. And I think there's an opportunity there not just to get in the ball down the field, but also to create some of those bubble screens and smoke screens and things like that, create some of the manufactured touches to let him create after the catch, because I think he's good at that too. It worked really well on the first possession against Kansas City last week, and then it kind of disappeared. I think it's something that they should continue with to add on to his game and to add more dimensions to the passing game.
All right, next question. Can you see it, Jamie?
Oh, is it for me?
Yeah.
I thought we were switching off.
No. Oh, you want me to do it? I'll do it. Okay.
No, it's fine. I can do it. This question is from Jason Dill. He says, I think the Gus Edwards experience has run its course. Is it time for Vidal yet? P.S. Joey Bosa just got hurt again after reading this. So, Craig, what do you think?
So I feel kind of bad for Gus because we talked about this before. He didn't have a lot of camp work due to whatever that injury was. We still don't know exactly what was going on with him. He was working through something. But the problem with Gus is he's a downhill back that needs almost perfect blocking. Think about Henry with the Ravens. When you attack Henry before his legs get going, that's the only way you stop him. But he's not an agile guy. He's not a laterally quick guy. So if you can get to him before he gets rolling, then you can probably have some success against him. That's the problem that's happening with Gus. Even when the holes are there, he's still not seeing them great. But as of right now, he just doesn't seem to be running with that same veracity or intensity that he usually does. I've never seen Gus Edwards be knocked backwards this many times, ever. So it's just like the train or the bus isn't getting going. And some of it has to do with the blocking because, again, he's a between the tackles runner. So where are the Chargers weak in the running and passing game right now? Between the tackles. So that's going to attribute to it. I don't think he's completely cooked, but the question then becomes, if you want to replace him with the Kamani Vidal, then you lose that element of the power back, and you're just going to hope that you can slash teams to death. So I would like to see Vidal, but I'm not ready to say that I want to kick Gus to the curb quite yet. I want to give it another couple weeks just to see what happens here post-bye, if any adjustments are made in the interior, if the interior play improves whatsoever. But yeah, I could really see an instance where they have to pull him by virtue of his skill set not aligning with what the strength of the team is in the running game right now. And J.K. Dobbins better fits that. Gus is kind of a man on an island right now, and it's really unfortunate.
Jamie?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, right? He's a downhill runner. He needs big holes to succeed. If you can make him stop his feet or hesitate or cut, you've probably won the rep. And if he has to stop his feet or think about where he's going to go behind the backfield, he's definitely done. So right now, the issues on the offensive line, I think, are weighing down the offense in a lot of ways. And I think it's weighing down the offense in a big way with Gus. I think it's really hard to evaluate him at the moment because the interior of the offensive line is already pretty bad, and now they're shuffling parts. So the holes aren't there, and I think teams kind of know where the ball is going in terms of the running game when Gus is on the field. So maybe they're a little bit too predictable with him on the field, but in terms of productivity, I just feel like we need to see that offensive line healthy for a stretch of more than 2 or 3 games. So we can fully evaluate him. And in terms of Vidal, I'd love to get him on the field. I think the challenge, though, right now is he doesn't play special teams. And they've got Hassan Haskins on the roster specifically for his special teams ability. So maybe they're in a situation, maybe they saw this coming, and they're in a situation where in a few weeks they can decide Gus isn't working, and they can put Haskins in Gus's role and maybe try to see if Vidal can play some special teams and contribute on offense. But right now, I would just like to see that offensive line get healthy so we can really evaluate Gus's ability to find and hit the holes. I just don't think he's had I don't want to say a fair shake, but he hasn't aligned with what the offensive line is doing well, and he hasn't really had a chance to get untracked.
Yeah, and I get where this question's coming from because I feel it's wearing on all of us. And we've not only given him a pass because of the offensive line, but also, the lack of reps this offseason, kind of a ramp-up period we were thinking with Gus. And then, with each game, it kind of, I get it. I get that a lot of people worry that it might not just be that he's not being, that the ramp-up period doesn't carry any weight. And the offensive line isn't really the issue. I get the concern. But yeah, I would like to see Vidal be active. Obviously Hassan Haskins has more capability because he has those special teams reps. But I mean, does he? I'm not closely watching special teams, but he doesn't have a tackle on special teams. Like, is he the glue that's keeping the special teams together? There's not another backup linebacker or something that could take that role and have Vidal be the third running back?
I'd have to watch it. My guess is he's probably acting as a personal protector.
Yeah, and he could be.
He's also the secondary return man on kickoffs as well. So, I mean, yeah.
Put Vidal in there.
Yeah. So, I mean, Vidal, I believe we did see him do a little bit of return work during camp, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep,
I think I might have seen him do a little bit of return work at Troy as well. So he's got the chops to be a return man. And like Jamie mentioned, Haskins is basically a mirror of Gus Edwards, just a younger version of him. So if Gus isn't working and whatever the injury is, they're not talking about it, I guess, for a reason. If it's something that slowed him down to the point to where he can be effective and you just have to let him go, you have the same archetype running back there. And if he wants to take more snaps like your downhill sledgehammer, then you can do that. Harbaugh trusts him from his time at Michigan, so he has that familiarity, and it really makes sense. So, yeah, definitely looks like they might have been thinking ahead on that one.
Okay. All right. I will read this last question for you, Jamie, and this will go to you. From Downtown Chair. Are you guys worried with Justin Herbert's decision-making with the new offense? Example, missing Palmer deep and throwing to QJ instead of when Palmer would have had a walk-in touchdown in the Chiefs game.
So this is something we've talked about over the last few years, and I think it's kind of starting to come back. And in my opinion, I don't feel like Herbert is seeing the ball very well. And I think he struggles in particular with seeing the ball well against zone defenses. He's just not willing to anticipate and attack the voids in the defense. And it's leading to him hold on to the ball, pat the ball. He's taking sacks. He's taking hits. So, yes, I have some concern about the decision-making. I think it's less decision-making because he's not turning the ball over. It's not like he's forcing the ball in the tight windows and getting picked off constantly. He's just not processing quickly. And I think part of it is there's a lot going on here, right? We've talked about this on pretty much every show since the season started. It takes him too long to get the play calling. And it's dragging down the tempo of the offense. They're getting to the line of scrimmage with fewer than 10 seconds on the play clock. They're rushing through motions. Herbert does not have time to really scan the field and figure out where the ball needs to go. So there's not a whole lot of pre-snap reads going on. And he's having to rely on post-snap reads because they're rushing into snapping the ball. That's a huge issue. They're also having issues with the interior offensive line and now with the tackles. So he doesn't trust the offensive line, and who the fuck can blame him for not trusting the offensive line the way it is right now? He can't stand back there and hold the ball. He also doesn't necessarily know where all of his wide receivers are going to be, or he's not at a point where he trusts them to be where they're supposed to be. So there's a lot of things going on, and I think Roman and Harbaugh are trying to protect him with his bum ankle and trying to keep him from being in the pocket too much. So they're really trying to run the ball to take some pressure off the offensive line. So there's a lot of things going on with this, but I do think at the core of it, I would like to see him be a little bit more decisive. There are lots of throws that he could make into cover 2 windows. These are throws that he's always struggled making on a consistent basis, anticipating and making. And I think he just needs to get the ball out a little bit faster, be a little bit more decisive. He's waiting for guys to come open instead of understanding when they're going to be open and leading them where he wants them to be. And in the NFL, if you wait for the guys to come open, by the time the ball gets there, they're not open anymore. So, yeah, I have some concerns about it. I think Lombardi and Moore and Staley really dragged down his development. And it seems like they're kind of having to start over in some degree in terms of how he's seeing and reading the field. They
broke our boy.
They did.
So ironically enough, Jamie, you mentioned his lack of throwing with anticipation. I agree. Funny enough, though, the thing we criticized him the most about was his inability to really recover too. I think he's gotten better there. He's taken a couple shots. Like I think the touchdown to QJ, when was that? Was that week 2?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So right in between the corner and safety. So he's getting a bit better there. It's just everything else where, for instance, if he's throwing against, it can be zone or man, doesn't really matter. He's waiting until the receiver makes their break. And if a corner or a safety is sitting on the route, they're able to jump it and beat the wide receiver to the spot almost every single time. And Justin's throwing it almost as if he's in fear of the receiver making the wrong break. So it's true. I don't think he trusts the receivers, but also he does know where at least 2 of them are going to be because it's generally in the exact same area because the spacing is horrible. With that being said, it's really, I cannot figure it out for the life of me how so many routes end up within 2 to 3 yards of each other. The splits are ridiculous. The route stems, the angles in which these receivers are running some of these routes. So yeah, I understand his frustration. So yes, also the play calling getting in. No, go ahead.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but just to your point, the core of this question of missing Palmer deep when QJ is there, they're both in the same exact area. So to your point in this question, the spacing was so bad that QJ was in Palmer's area and it went to QJ instead of Palmer.
So I want to make sure we're talking about the same play here. So Palmer's in the end zone, QJ's up the sideline, but because Romo was talking about it also, but when you see the shot from the opposite end zone, you can see that the safety was going to have an opportunity to break on the ball if he throws it to Palmer. So it wasn't necessarily that Palmer was wide open. From the angle that you're watching it, like the broadcast angle, it looks like he was. But when you look at it from the end zone, I'm pretty sure there was a safety over the top that would have had an opportunity to break, which is maybe why he threw it to QJ. But the problem still stands. Receivers are ending up in the same space at the same time. And, I mean, you're doing the defense's job for them. So with a quarterback that can't really drop back 5 to 7 steps right now and is already second guessing his wide receivers because he doesn't trust very many of them, you're not doing anyone any favors. I will also mention this. I want to give them props for trying to help Herbert out, but also not completely giving away their game plan. They were lining up in a lot of pistol early. And the thing about lining up in pistol is it doesn't give away which direction you're going to go with the ball if you're going to run, because you still have a two-way goal. The running back lines up behind the quarterback. It's not exactly under center, but it's just a couple yards behind the center. So it simulates somewhat of a shotgun snap, but it doesn't completely like submarine your offense. And Herbert can still move around a little bit and it gives him another extra tick or two with the poor blocking in front of him to get the ball off. But just in general, man, his decision-making, I think, is a product of him not trusting what's around him right now, and the protection not being there isn't helping him either. Yeah.
So protection isn't good. We talked about spacing, and then just to add on to, because I agree with you guys, and I don't want to labor on the same points you guys are, but to add on top of that, when we would see Herbert make those decisions that we've seen him have issues with, there was normally a couple more throws that would come after that he would make up for it. Now he's not throwing the ball 40 to 45 times anymore. It's now 25 to 30 times. So we're not seeing him throw it as much as he has in the past, where, he'll make a bad throw in cover 2, but then he'll make an elite throw falling down, sidearm to a first down on a 4th and 24 or something.
The pass to J.K. Dobbins up the sideline.
Right. Yeah. But what's happening now is the mistakes are being amplified because the throws are decreased now in the reps that he's taking. So he's not being able to make for it on his arm, 10 to 15 more times a game. He's now, it's a run first offense and they're running the ball a whole lot more. And he's only getting 25, maybe 30 throws a game now. So those mistakes start to get amplified a little bit more too. So I think that's part of the decision, not only on top of everything else you guys talked about, but those things start to come into fruition and start to be amplified only because we're seeing him throw it less and less now throughout this season.
Yeah, well, also seeing... No, go ahead, Jamie.
I was just going to say, you're also seeing more like he's patting the ball, he's double pumping, he's double clutching. You can tell he's not necessarily trusting what he's seeing, and he's not trusting his eyes. So he's second guessing himself. And I think he's second guessing the wide receivers to a certain extent too.
Yeah, I was also going to piggyback a little bit off of what Garrett said. Like now that he's passing the ball fewer times, it kind of sort of feels like he's trying to make too much happen in the opportunities that he does get. So someone who's as risk averse as he typically is, he's second guessing himself in the process. Like, it's almost like, no, I wouldn't normally make this throw. Oh, but hell, I might need to do my best to make a big play here because I'm only going to get so many of these opportunities. And not to say that all of that's going through his head. Who the hell knows what he's thinking while he's trying to evade, 300-pound men that are attempting to track him down. But I mean, you're talking about a guy who, like we mentioned, was throwing the ball upwards of 40 times consistently, like 35 plus times for the last few years. And now he's in the 20 to 25 range. And the problem is if the goal was to take a lot of the weight off of his shoulders so he doesn't have to play hero ball, he's still finding himself in having to play superhuman or Superman situations now, just with less attempts. So it's conflicting him, I would say, probably a little bit, but he still has to make better decisions. They just have to put him in the positions to make those plays, though he can't do it all on his own.
So just to kind of put a cap on this, on what Craig was saying, Herbert doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who's worried about his numbers or his reps. So I'm not really sure he's a guy who's thinking like, oh, I got to take advantage of every throw. I'm not sure that's who he is. And also I don't think, even though the offense is not working well, I don't think he's in a position where he has to be superhuman necessarily, because they're playing a lot of super close games. So they're still in games where 1 or 2 throws can make a huge difference in the game. He's just not making the throws. So this isn't like before where he had to throw the ball 45 times. He had to throw for 350 or 400 and 3 or 4 touchdowns just to have a shot at winning. Now they're at a point where it's like, okay, the defense is going to keep us in the game. I need to make 2 or 3 throws down the field to give us an easier time to score, and we're probably going to win this game. The throws just haven't happened. And I think there's a whole bunch of reasons for that, like we discussed.
Okay, let's take some of the chat questions. So if you guys got them, send them in now. This one's from Casey. Should we expect any changes behind the scenes after Tom Gores buys 27% of the franchise, or anything affecting the team? Do you guys see any changes at all?
Nope.
Me neither.
Nah, I don't think Gores has anything to do with this whatsoever. Also, as far as like, there's no real controlling interest with the percentage that he purchased. No.
Okay. All right. Then we all agree. It's a pretty substantial.
That dude owns the Pistons, man.
Yeah. And what are you saying?
Just as far as decision making, I don't trust.
It's not the best.
No.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, from Gabriel, can I get some new TLR stickers? The ones from back in the day are faded. Jamie, do we need to get some stickers together?
Don't know that we have any stickers. We'd have to make some.
No, he's saying new ones. He wants to get some brand new ones. Oh yeah, we're out of stickers. Yeah. Those are gone. Those have been gone. All right, and Jamie, since we have the time, he wants some Padres content. Anything you want to say now that you have the floor?
I love the way they're playing. I'm super bummed that Musgrove got hurt. It's such a terrible way to start off the playoffs. He just feels like a third ace in the rotation that you've lost, which really sucks. Mm-hmm. But they're fortunate that they have Darvish to step up. I feel like this is a series they're probably going to win. I just feel like they're better than the Dodgers, records notwithstanding. The Dodgers pitching is a mess. I feel like the Padres will put some runs up and put some pressure on the Dodgers, and I think they can take the series. I think we're looking at the Padres in the NLCS.
I completely agree with you, Jamie, and I can't wait to see this playoff run come back to San Diego, because it has just been absolutely electric from the first round and going forward. I love the people of San Diego and everything they've done at Petco Park, and I can't wait to get this series started, because it does feel like they are the hotter team and the better team heading to the playoffs. Craig, you got something you need to get off your chest here?
I'm a Braves fan.
Yes, that's right. Well,
I'm outnumbered. It's all good, man. It's all good.
All right. From LA Chargers fan, what worries you most going into the rest of the season, and what gives you the most hope?
Well, I think right now what has to worry you is the state of the offensive line. It's a disaster.
That's gonna be...
They can't block anybody in the running game or the passing game right now. So that's a big issue. Ramping up the passing game so that they can get some explosive plays out of it is something that I think they have to focus on. But I think what has to give you hope is I have complete faith that Harbaugh is going to make the adjustments and they're going to figure shit out and they're going to play well in the second half of the season. It's kind of unfortunate that the bye is so early in the season. You'd wish it was a little bit later. But it is what it is. But I think this coaching staff is going to make the adjustments and they're going to be fine.
The defense is what gives me the most hope right now, because for them to be playing at the level that they are right now, just 4 games in, with a lot of the same pieces from years past and a few guys that were pulled off the scrap heap from like the land of forgotten toys, they have scrapped together a defense that is top 10 and consistent. And I'm sorry, if you're holding the Chiefs to 10 points into the fourth quarter, I don't care who they have out there. It's still the Chiefs, and they typically find a way to put up points with Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback. So the defense continuing to be consistent throughout the year. I think the offense just starts to improve as the weeks go by. As guys start to come back, I think you'll see a little bit more efficiency overall from the offense. I think the running game is going to get going again just by virtue of the offensive linemen returning. And I think DJ Chark makes a difference. Even if it doesn't show up on the stat sheet with a bunch of catches and a lot of yards, I think his ability to stretch the field is going to help the passing game overall. I would just love to see them do something at the tight end position. But I'm confident in Jim Harbaugh. This is the coach that we wanted, and I think we'll figure it out as the year goes along. So defense is the main driving force for my confidence. The offensive line on the interior is for sure going to be the thing that worries me the most until they find a way to get that shored up or these guys start to play better.
Yeah. Interior offensive line is unanimous for what worries us the most. I'm a little hesitant on Greg Roman. He's starting to worry me a little bit, but I'm okay for now. We're only 4 games in. What gives me the most hope is that I truly feel like Lad McConkey could be a wide receiver 1 in the NFL. He just seems to be a guy that can separate. And if he's a guy getting 10 to 12 targets a game, it just feels like it could be a real success for this offense. So I really, really feel like through the first 4 games, we're seeing that the Chargers got a pretty good wide receiver at the top of the second round. So I'm really impressed what he's done so far. And I think like he's got the shadings of a nice, 10 to 12 target guy that could have, 10 catches over 100 yards. I'm not going to see him. We're probably not going to see him, catch anything deep, but we're probably going to see some big chunk plays here coming up towards the end of the season. I just feel like it's all starting to break. So I feel like Lad McConkey right now is giving me some real hope.
I can't wait to see Lad on a couple double moves. I think once the running game gets going again, he's going to embarrass someone in the slot deep, and that's how he'll get his those really big chunk plays deep down the field. They'll come off double moves. They'll set him up throughout the game, underneath, running hitches. He'll probably do some stop and go routes, maybe a couple rail routes or something like that. But yeah, I think Lad's got a bright future ahead of him, and you'll start to see him be more explosive as the year goes on.
All right, Bally G. Should Alt and Slater switch sides for now on going forward? Since Slater's injuries are on his left pec, the pec and bicep, would having him at right tackle help so the injuries won't affect his game?
No. You have an established left tackle. You have Alt playing extremely well on right tackle when he's healthy, obviously. I don't think you want to move them. I'm not sure that moving Slater changes the injuries on either side, on his left side. He's still going to be using both arms. He's still going to be extending. He's still going to be, hand fighting and battling with defensive linemen. So no, I don't think you move him. He's earned that spot. He has every reason to expect that he should be able to come back and play that spot. And I don't think you move an all-pro left tackle for a rookie. I don't think you do it.
Yeah, it feels like you're just doing too much here. Just leave them where they're at. Then you got to have Alt relearn left tackle. You got to now have Slater learn right tackle. I get where your mind's at, but this is doing too much. So no, I wouldn't do that.
Same. It's unanimous across the board. And when you're talking about just the functionality of the position, I get where you're going. You're trying to protect his left side. But if you think about it, depending on how pass rushers are attacking, his first initial punch might be driven more so with that inside arm to get guys pushed outside away from Herbert and steering them outside. So more of his left arm may actually be used from that perspective than the right arm if you move him to the right side. So again, there's really no protecting him overall. We just have to hope he has better injury luck moving forward. And I don't know what it is about these guys that were Ironmen in college that become Chargers and suddenly they just can't hold it together. But nah, I don't want them switching. Alt has the ability to do it, but doesn't mean that he should. And you've got what you have at left tackle. We just have to hope the guy can stay put together.
Jamie, we got the Padres moving on. Do you think the Mets have any chance against the Phillies? Or is their luck run out?
I think their luck has run out.
I think so too.
I don't think the Mets have the pitching or the offense really to hang with the Phillies in a long series.
Yeah, I don't either. I think they're lucky enough to get where they're at with that Pete Alonso prayer shot the other night. Do you guys have any other trade targets from Royce? Top 3 trade targets are in the bye. rumors Mike Williams might be available if Adam goes to the Jets. That'd be crazy. Mike Will already getting traded. Amari Keenan O-line. Let me ask you a separate question because I mean, who wants to do that? About trade targets. We were talking about trade targets. How are you guys feeling about the whole Keenan trade and the Mike Williams letting go in free agency? How are you guys and cut? How are you guys feeling about those two big moves that were very controversial in the offseason? Anybody regretting it at this time? With the way the offense is?
I mean,
it's the right move.
It's easy to regret it in hindsight, right? But I mean, you've got two older, slower wide receivers. I haven't looked at the numbers, but I don't think Keenan's playing terribly well in Chicago.
He's been hurt. Heel injury. He hasn't really been playing at all.
And Mike just got back on the field this week or the week before, so he hasn't been playing a whole lot. So nothing has really changed in terms of their availability or lack thereof. They got a whole lot more experience, a whole lot younger, a whole lot less expensive at wide receiver. Gives them the flexibility to make other moves this year, maybe next year. So no, I don't regret it. I think it was something they had to do. Could they have done it in two different off seasons instead of in one off season to lessen the impact? Maybe, but honestly, like I don't regret it. I think that it had to be done to get younger and faster and less expensive.
Yeah, taking my personal feelings out of it because, of course, Keenan getting let go really sucked for me and a lot of Chargers fans overall. But same issues are being experienced elsewhere with other teams right now. Mike Williams just coming back from his injury situation, still not being hyper productive with the Jets. And Keenan's been out for multiple games with the Bears with the heel injury. And I don't know if it's the same heel injury he had with the Chargers, but I would imagine it probably is related. The thing about it here is it's one of those scenarios where it's best to get rid of a person a year too early than a year too late. So there's no guarantee that Keenan would have been available. It would have been nice to have him around just because he has that rapport with Herbert. And Herbert will probably still be leaning on him very heavily. It's just if we're looking at things as they currently stand, we don't know how available he would have been. And maybe we're getting towards the end of the road with Keenan and we've seen the best of him. So no, I'm not having like buyer's remorse or seller's remorse or whatever you want to call it on either one. I think overall the offense is going to get better. It's just young. It just needs time to develop like anything else that's new.
Yeah, so just to give you the numbers, Mike Williams is 8 catches for 120 yards through 3 games, and then you got Keenan Allen for 7 catches for 48 yards through 2 games. So not earth-shattering numbers, and yeah, there were rumors about Keenan Allen getting fat in the offseason. There's a lot of stuff that was going on, and so far I'm not regretting it much at all. But also,
I don't think Keenan wants to be there, man.
Yeah,
it just doesn't seem like he wants to be there.
Yeah. All right, and I feel bad for him too. I really do. Okay, let's go to these bad tweets and wrap this show up. So first one is from unanimous person. Get mad at
Anonymous,
me.
You mean?
Anonymous. What did I say? Unanimous.
Yes.
Anonymous. This is unanimous. This is a terrible take. Get mad at me, but Brock Purdy has never had a good offensive coach or a good offensive line. He has had good weapons. Make sense of any of this for me, please.
So I guess Kyle Shanahan is not his head coach calling plays.
We're talking about the greatest offensive line in football right now, but go ahead.
And I guess Bobby Slowick wasn't there, and Mike McDaniel wasn't there, and I mean, their offensive line is about as dominant as it gets. So
yes.
That offense is set inside out at every position. So this is ridiculous.
Come on, man. Let's just do better. This is another one of those that I don't feel like is a real tweet. This is engagement farming. Someone's just out there putting stuff out just to piss people off because there's no way you actually watch football and kept up with it for any period of time and believe any of these words. Like everything about this is completely ridiculous and out of bounds. So let's just move on because you're right. It's unanimously stupid. I think we can all agree this is ridiculous.
A terrible
so
take,
yeah, it's bad.
And what I'm trying to get, what's the goal of this? That Brock Purdy's being held back? Like if he had a good offensive line and a good offensive coach, he would have what? won a Super Bowl instead of made the Super Bowl?
I think this was made in a thread about Herbert not having the weapons or the offensive line to succeed.
Oh God.
Okay.
I think that's where this came from.
All right. So in context, it's I mean, even with context, this is still bad.
Let's not make that comparison, man.
Well, I'm sure there's Herbert's tweet. There's always Herbert bad tweets. Next one here from another anonymous person. Hey Siri, how many playoff wins have the Chargers won after Melvin Gordon's contract dispute where Tom Telesco thought we didn't need him? Donut emoji. It was Melvin Gordon all along that has held the Chargers out from being a good football team.
Hey Siri, how many playoff games have Melvin Gordon teams won with him on them outside of the Chiefs?
Yeah,
where he actually played.
Yeah.
By the way, Siri almost tried to answer me, by the way. I don't know if you heard that. But my phone just
man. This is
and he tagged Tom Telesco too, by the way.
And we know where it came from.
I can guess. I don't know for certain, but I'm sure I can guess. And it's obsessive. Somebody needs to get help. I'm seeing a Michael Jordan meme. Please stop. Get help.
I like Melvin Gordon is the crux for what has held the Chargers back.
Didn't he just have an interview somewhere where he admitted that he wished he had stayed?
He did.
He did. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So it was his fault then.
I would love to know. I'd love to be in a room with him and ask him, was that your call or was that your agent giving you bad advice?
It's got to be an agent, don't you think? Because it felt like every time he got in front of a mic, he felt uncomfortable.
Yeah, I don't know.
It wasn't he wasn't, like Eckler was passionate about running backs need more money. Like we're getting blackballed here. He was passionate about it. That felt like his idea. Gordon got in front of a mic and was like, kind of squirrely and didn't want to really answer questions. That to me feels like it was agent speak and he wanted more money. And he was kind of just going.
Probably.
The way running backs fall from grace with this organization is hilarious to me. It's just, but yeah, let's just get over the whole Melvin Gordon thing, please. Like, let's find another hill. Let's find find something else to obsess over. This ain't the thing. It just looks away. I'm starting to get worried a little bit. Seems kind of standish.
All right, last one here. Hashtag Chargers at this point. We should consider tanking the season so we can get a high pick for a center or get this possibly a quarterback. I love this. To see your guys' reactions from these tweets are my favorite part of this whole show. It makes it the best. What's this? I mean, the for a high pick for a center, which by the way, I'm not sure first round centers have a good history as it is, but as Richie Farley says, yeah, WTF. Or possibly a what? A quarterback.
Oh, I didn't even get to that part.
Yeah, let's tank for a top 5 pick and use a top 5 pick on a center. Please, let's do that. Because that works. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
God, people are fucking dumb. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I know. This is crazy.
This tells me that they're just being introduced to the game, or maybe that's going too far again. Let's not make head injury jokes, but I'll put it this way. This feels like a person who may have been experienced or had some experience with some sort of head-on collision. Things just haven't healed correctly to this point. They're trying to figure it out, or they're new to the game of football and they're just learning positional value and how this all works. I'm gonna give you no, go ahead.
Or they need to be locked in a padded room with a helmet.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the helmet would have helped them in the first place.
Yeah, he needed that in the first. Yeah.
Yeah, this is all of it's bad. It's all terrible.
Man, I mean, they do need interior offensive line help, which, I mean, I feel like it was going in a good direction. And then as soon as he added that or, it was like, oh boy.
That's
possibly a quarterback too, by the way. He's not even like standing strong in his
He's
statement.
not committed to it.
No, not at all. No.
He knows he's wrong, so he's like, maybe.
Maybe. Hedging. Yeah, hedging. Okay.
Just like the guy in the last tweet that was like, kill me, but Brock Purdy or the first one?
I really want to say they need a quarterback, but I'm gonna get killed if I do. So,
Yeah.
So he
maybe.
wasn't trying.
Yeah,
He wasn't trying to go full Gump. Never go full Gump. I see what you're doing.
Right. He like
Gotcha.
said it under his breath, the second part, so that we didn't catch on to it. But Ivan brings up a pretty good point about number 2, by the way. About after Melvin Gordon, are we just like, what about Eckler? Was Eckler not good enough? I mean, where's the barometer for? Is it just the man Melvin Gordon that brings the Chargers a championship?
Clearly,
Or is it because
his
Eckler
aura.
was a pretty good running back? I mean,
It was the aura, man.
Yeah, it was Melvin Gordon's aura that
He had the
his
glow
bubble.
like Bruce Leroy from the
he
last
loves
Dragon.
him a running back who runs straight to contact and goes and hits the ground and fumbles.
And fumbles at the worst possible times. Yeah, that's exactly what you want. That'll get you some wins for sure. That'll get you over the hump. Absolutely what the Chargers are missing.
I don't really agree with this part from Steven, but it's like, let's go back further. We should have never gotten rid of Ryan Matthews. Like, where is the point? Like, is Ryan Matthews not the point? Melvin Gordon and then Eckler? Like, nobody, like, why is it Melvin Gordon here?
LaDainian Tomlinson and Natron Mean should still be the Chargers running backs.
That's it.
Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
At 60 years old.
Yeah. Like, oh man. Funny. Yeah. I don't know.
That knee should have healed up for LT by now. So I would imagine he might be raring to go.
I just don't get the point of it. Where does it start and where does it end? I guess it just starts and ends with fucking Melvin Gordon, and that's it.
Yep.
Because we're not considering Ryan Matthews before him or Austin Eckler after him or anything else or any other position group. It's just because, yeah, let's bring back Brandon Oliver.
Ronnie Harmon. Bring back Ronnie Harmon.
Ronnie Harmon. Yeah. Natron Means, like, find somebody.
Oh crap, Jamie!
Ridiculous.
You got to help me. Who's the running back?
Fazand.
Wait.
Jamie, you got to help me. Who's the other ASU running back?
Grice? Are you thinking about
Grice? Maurice Grice?
Marion Grice. Yeah.
Marion Grice.
Let's get the whole gang, get the band back together. Everybody who looked like they had potential at any point in time, just bring them all back.
Any Chargers running back will do. It doesn't matter. Just any of them.
Just like any tight end will do at the trade deadline. Do they have a post?
Yes.
Bring them back.
Oh God. Okay. All right. Well, I guess that's enough for now. Okay.
I love this part of the show.
I know. Ronnie Brown, Marion Butts. Like, we should Chuck Muncie. We should just. Where's Danny Woodhead? Shouldn't he?
Marion Butts. That's a good one.
Come on. Danny Woodhead should be here somewhere. Ronnie Brown. Is Justin Jackson? What's Justin Jackson up to?
I could answer that question for you,
Callum
but I don't know if it's pod appropriate.
Oh, okay. All right. Never mind that. All right, we're done. Thanks everybody for joining us. On that note, we will see you next time. No after hours because there's no game on Sunday. But we'll see you all next week with a bunch more podcasts. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Salute.